Hello, and welcome to Back to the Feature with Evan and Gabby. Double features, double takes. This is the podcast where we talk about two movies, one new, one older, what makes them a good pair, and how the history of films influences the present.
I'm Evan.
And I'm Gabby. And today we are discussing Together
And
and
Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread, two films that explore parasitic codependent relationships between an unlikely duo, and more importantly, two movies that I, Gabby Ruiz, consider to be romantic comedies. More specifically, my favorite genre, rom-coms that are not rom-coms.
I'm very excited to get into that. And I'm very excited to get into figure out which one of these movies made me sick this week. Was it the body horror in Together, or was it Reynolds Woodcock and all of his illnesses in that movie? We will get to it.
We'll get into it. That is what we can promise you today.
Um, this week, I guess not, not a ton of huge news stories. We
Mm-mm.
got some potential movement on the Social Network 2 casting. Looks
I'm
looks
very
like
upset about
Jeremy
it.
Allen White's star is on the rise, huh? And Jeremy Strong. They're both
I'm
Jeremys, right?
I'm very upset about this. Not I'm happy for them. I like Jeremy Allen White. I like Mikey Madison. I like Jeremy Strong, all as performers. I do not think that we need a Social Network sequel. Social Network is a near perfect film to me, and I also hate, capital H hate, our beloved Aaron Sorkin as a director. I hate his directing. Like I think he's
Yeah.
a brilliant writer, but he needs somebody else behind the wheel of the rest, like holding it back. Because the last few movies he's made as a director are not it.
Yeah, but what's better than a Social Network sequel? A Spider-Man
Oh
sequel.
my
That's right.
God.
We got our first teaser for Spider-Man Brand New Day today. Close up, a 9 seconds shot of a Spider-Man costume.
I'm
Great
less
stuff,
upset.
folks. Evan from the future here. We've since gotten a full look at Tom Holland in the suit. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the video now. And there have been some pictures of him filming the movie and some video clips on the internet. So looks like Spider-Man Brand New Day is well under production here. Excited to see what happens with it.
I'm less upset about this sequel because I think that it will prevent Tom Holland from being cast as James Bond, which I think is crucial. We we,
Yeah.
we don't need him to be James Bond.
Well, he needs to be in the Odyssey too.
The Odyssey 2.
Yeah.
That's what Christopher Nolan's cooking up is actually they're filming two parts at the same time.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Surprise.
He's gonna drop that trailer during the premiere of The Odyssey.
He said it worked for Denis, right? And then they'll be like, no,
Yeah.
Denis didn't have the second one ready.
Hmm.
And then he'll be like, it worked for John True, right? And they'll be like, okay, yeah, we got it.
We got it.
Universal.
We got it, Chris.
But yeah, Spider-Man Brand New Day today, I believe Friday, August 1st, it was announced that Mark Ruffalo will be joining the cast as the Hulk, returning as
Mhm.
Bruce Banner in the Hulk. John Bernthal was already confirmed. The everyone is saying this is a street level Spider-Man. Honestly, I've always really liked Tom Holland as Peter Parker, and I've really enjoyed his presence in those movies. I
Yeah.
don't know if any of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies like fully work for me. Um,
No, they're just too different to me. I mean, I think
yeah,
that we just grew up with the street level Tobey Maguire movies, and I think that that makes a difference when
which
you're
is
like,
why Homecoming I think maybe works the best out of the three. It still
yeah,
feels like it's set in like new, but there's and the Michael Keaton stuff in that is like unparalleled, definitely. I mean,
right,
and I'm on record as saying some of my favorite scenes in the MCU at large come from the Spider-Man movies, like the finale of No Way Home where he's talking to MJ in the diner and she doesn't know who he is, like all that stuff. That stuff's so powerful, so simple, but it's so powerful. Movies on the whole, I don't know, but I will say, it's hard not to be excited for a Spider-Man movie.
yeah, no, I want to see it. I want to see their take on the street
Yeah.
level Spider-Man that I'm used to, that I grew up with and love, because I think that yeah, the whole, I mean, I echo the masses when I say that the whole like galactic adventures and multiversal saga didn't super work for me,
Hmm.
especially in terms of that character. But we're moving forward.
Yeah,
That
moving
that was
forward.
the news this week. We're moving on.
Moving on to watching together in
Woo!
theaters.
And watch, more importantly, Evan, watching together. We saw
That's right.
this together in the same theater, sitting side by side for the
Hmm.
first time since we started this pod.
And two seats down was our friend James, coincidentally.
Absolutely. Just happened to be there. Good for James.
Yeah,
A real fan.
Gabby, send me some of the pictures you took of me because I'll throw them up for the YouTube viewers
Oh,
right now.
yeah. I think you need to see Evan came prepared. So Together is not the type of movie that Evan would normally go see. But I, as a collaborative companion and co-host, forced him gently to see this movie for the pod, but also for his growth as a cinema goer, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I went to the movie really prepared, even though it was a really crowded opening night and I was like fully prepared. I considered, Gabby, I didn't tell you this on the day. I considered bringing sunglasses in too. I was
Really?
that scared.
Okay.
And I decided no because that would be
Interesting.
embarrassing that people would be able to see. So what I did do
Okay.
instead was I had very heavy duty earplugs. These are earplugs I usually
Mm-hmm.
use to go to sleep that are a little uncomfortable, will block out the most noise I've ever used with earplugs. So really like them. Would not recommend them for concerts. So that maybe is a good telling of like where they stand in movies. And I had a hat that had a big kind of brim so I could hide my eyes. And
Wide brimmed hat.
yeah, and Gabby would frequently reach over and lower the hat for my
I
eyes.
just like I sensed the jump scare coming and I was like, "Oh no, Evan is not going to be able to handle whatever is on the other side of this extreme close up of Alison Brie."
Yeah, and I honestly I was pretty impressed with how well I knew I could just like having not seen I think I've only ever seen like three or four just like what you would call just straight up called like a horror movie. And Alien already is
Mm,
like straddling that line,
right.
right? And so I was really impressed with myself that just like knowing the intuition of the beats and like knowing editing and story. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I bet you something's about to happen." That will throw off the rhythm of this really well. And also, Neon tried to do some viral marketing like they did with Long Legs, where they were
Mm-hmm.
like, we use never before seen technology to measure the size of people's pupils during
Yep.
together. And I was
Mm.
like, and they were like, this scene. And mentally, I was like, okay, this scene to look
So
down at, this scene to look down at, this scene to look down at.
so you were
Um,
prepared. You're using that marketing in a totally different way.
was really prepared. I've seen the trailer multiple times in theaters, and so I was clocking every single shot that I was like, okay, the lighting reminds me of this. I should be ready. And I still will say, out of the things that were like the most horrific in the movie, the thing that actually got me to like jump in my seat and totally caught me off guard was the shot in the trailer where Alison Brie is on the ground going,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
was not ready for that cut, and I thought it was a big reaction in the theater too. And I jumped up, fully just like like hands
Yep. Yep.
flailing in front of me, and I was like, I couldn't believe it got me that bad. But on the whole, I
I thought you
wasn't
did great on the whole.
I was good, and I didn't. When I went home, I wasn't like thinking about the movie too much. Like it wasn't like I wasn't
It
closing my
wasn't
eyes and seeing
lodged.
things. There's
It
lots of
wasn't
things
like
you could close your eyes and picture before you go
right.
to sleep here.
It's not, yes, but it wasn't like nightmare fuel for you in that way.
Yeah, 100%. But I think the movie's very effective, and that shouldn't
Oh,
be a
yes.
judgment on you're like, oh, if Evan wasn't scared, I'm not going to be scared. No, you should go see it. I think it does some really effective stuff in that sense.
Yes, I think we both agree on the whole that this movie is worth the watch and
Hmm.
worth a trip to your local cinema. Uh,
Yeah.
and with that, let's get right into it.
Hmm.
Together, released July 30th, 2025, after its initial premiere at Sundance in January of this year, directed by and written by Michael Shanks. It's his first film,
Hmm.
feature debut, and it stars real life married couple Dave Franco and Alison Brie. Who needs couples counseling? Just make a supernatural body horror codependency rom com.
Hmm. Yeah, the Sun premiered at Sundance this year. There was a lot of buzz around this one coming out of the festival. It was acquired by Neon for a hefty $17 million price tag. We'd also be remiss not to mention the film currently has some potential legal
Uh,
issues around it. There is a lawsuit from a director, Michael Patrick, or Patrick Henry Phelan, who and his producers, they're saying that this film is very similar to a feature that they did called Better Half, that came out a couple years ago, and allegedly they had also sent the script to Dave Franco and Alison Brie, and whose agents turned it
Mm.
down. There's yeah, this is an ongoing situation. It likely, if they keep pursuing this, it likely won't be resolved until another year or so, but it's
Wow.
certainly in the part of the film, which is like, either way it shakes out. It's a shame because, it sucks to have a feature film debut. Obviously, your first feature as a director is something that's very important, very like precious, and even if it's not true, it's like a bummer that this is like, kind of like
Yeah, it's
rain on his
hanging
parade a little
over
bit.
it, you know,
Yeah.
it's hanging over the premiere. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's a real bummer. Um,
Yeah.
but
But there's just been a lot of details that have been like in the press and then that have been rectified later. So, don't feel totally comfortable recounting everything. Feel free to look stuff up yourself if you're
yeah,
curious. But we'll be curious to see how it all shakes out.
I'm sure that you will be on the tail of that story. I I really like this movie, though.
hmm
I think that it's doing a lot and it has a lot to say about relationships and our dynamics with the people that we choose to spend our lives with. I think that it is very effective in mostly everything that it tries to do. There were a
Mm.
couple of moments that we can get into later when we fully spoil, that didn't totally work for me or that didn't feel like a heavy enough payoff. But ultimately, I thought this was very original and a very good take on a lot of themes that are currently plaguing the 30 somethings that we know.
Yeah, I what I appreciated most about this movie is again not being like a horror person. It felt nice to have these like touch points in a horror film where you're like, this is the beat where this happens, this is the beat where this happens. That allows you to ground yourself and stay with the movie when it's trying to do a lot of stuff. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if everything worked for me the way it did for you. I actually found like I had some issues with some of the general pacing and some of the general logic, which I think is purposely vague, which is fine. But I think as we move throughout the movie, there was things that felt like a little just like clunky to me to how we were moving. Things felt like they were there more for the set piece than they were for the story in a certain sense. But yeah, I'm interested to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The movie is like very much centered around these two characters. We should mention that there is a third character that comes into play that is very important,
hmm
portrayed by actor Damon Harriman,
hmm
who I knew he looked familiar in the movie. I like could not place where I knew him from,
hmm
and it's both Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Mindhunter, where he played
Oh, that's
Charles Manson in
right.
both
Oh
because
my
he looks
God.
so much like Charles Manson,
I
which
know
is
him from something else. I forgot about the Charles Manson thing. Let me see. Hold on.
you might, yeah,
I have
I'm sure I've seen
a
him other places, but mostly I know him literally as being a serial killer or cult leader.
oh, I recognize him from the Bike Riders and
Oh,
Better Man. The
of
monkey
course, Better
biopic.
Man,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
slept on film.
Yeah,
Um,
truly.
but he plays a character named Jamie, I believe, and
hmm
he is very important third wheel to this story. Uh,
Yeah. So to just give like the broad no spoiler log line, right? Dave Franco plays Tim, Alison Brie plays Millie. Tim and Millie decide to uproot their lives and move to the countryside for Millie to pursue a
yes,
new job. Tim is feeling a little bit listless as a kind of aspiring slash failed music rock
musician.
star, pop,
Yeah.
yeah, musician. And when they go hiking, things start to go awry.
Well,
Uh,
they move into a beautiful home though, as you can see behind me if you're watching us on YouTube.
yeah.
Right
Look at
here.
that. I thought this whole thing was for some reason because all their friends were like like in the beginning, their city friends are like Australian or have accents. So I thought this all took place like in Australia.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty like nondescript city,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's supposed to be the East Coast, probably.
hmm
Um, Somewhere on the East Coast. Maybe they moved to Connecticut
Somewhere
or
that has trains that can get you back into the city in 3 hours.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Um, I in my head it's like, oh, they moved out of Brooklyn and they moved to like, yeah, a woodsy part of Connecticut.
Mm.
But they have a beautiful house. They have, a picturesque new life. But what isn't really clicking is their relationship. We pick up on that pretty early on that I mean, in that scene with their friends, they kind of jump right into it. Like
Yeah.
the
She
friend
proposes
of
to
Millie.
him.
Oh my God. But before that, even the friend of Millie's is like, are we sure? Are you sure you want to bring him? He's
Yeah.
boring. He's like, he doesn't want to be intimate with you. And he's like kind of just like waiting to
Yeah.
become a rock star. Are we sure? And then, yes, very funny. Our whole theater kind of was just doing a very awkward cringe laugh later in that party scene when Alison Brie gets down on one knee and fake proposes to Tim, not
Yeah,
with a
it's
ring.
crazy.
There's no ring, which
Yeah.
I maintain is not a proposal. But yes, they do yes, like a fake box opening
Yeah.
and it's like, "Will you spend your life with me, Tim?" And he takes way too long to answer. Way too long. Like a full 30 seconds pass of just silence. And she stands back up and he's like, "Oh, yeah, yes." So that's where their relationship is at when they
Yeah.
move into this place.
But he's gone through a pretty traumatic experience. We won't spoil what that is, but the movie clarifies that that is kind of eating away at his psyche a little bit, and we'll have like some further ramifications down the line. And then yeah, we get this kind of, what you all know from the trailers, this body horror, body morphing aspect of the movie where they're drawn together physically and their bodies physically stick together. I'll be honest, happens a little bit later in the movie than I thought. Like the
Yeah,
heaviness,
it
the
does.
bulk of it, right? Which I think brings us to this interesting subject that you kind of outlined of this like this weird balance of genres and tones that it's like kind of striking. How did that
Mhm.
work for you?
I thought it overall it did work for me. I think, as you said, there are moments where it kind of slows down the movie and kind of makes it feel a little off kilter. It doesn't always feel natural. I do agree with that. But on the whole, I really like that this movie is trying to be a lot of different things and
Hmm.
mostly succeeding because I feel like a lot of movies now just don't even try. They
It's
just kind
true.
of play it safe for what they know is going to be a satisfying payoff for audiences or the easy way out. There
Hmm.
was one moment where I did think, oh, okay, this is the easy way out. But we'll get to that later. But mostly, I really like the how it tried to juggle all of those things.
Yeah, and for movies that don't try to juggle those things, see Fantastic Four: First Steps.
If you're not interested in a relationship that is challenging, you can see the all too perfect Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby have very little physical chemistry on screen.
Um, yeah, I do agree that I was kind of surprised to find out that it was like less body horror and then more about this general like codependency thing. Um, yeah, like finding your other half, even if it's toxic, is kind of what you wrote down in our outline. And I do agree. I was like very surprised that like it's like, yeah, these are the ways that like people balance each other out, right? Like even if you're not perfect for one another, there is this like sense that like, well, sometimes you're filling in each other's like gaps, so to speak, you know?
Hmm. And I do think that the character of Millie does pose a really interesting question that kind of hit me early on in the movie, where she asks, you know, do we love each other? Are we in love, or are we just used to each other?
Hmm.
Like, are we just used to filling in each other's gaps? Are we used to being each other's other half, other person? And it's too hard for us to separate now. Something that will quite literally come back to them later in the movie. But she says to that effect, she kind of gives him an out in the beginning of the movie. She does give him the opportunity to stay in the city, and maybe you don't have to come with me to this new life. Maybe it's
Hmm.
not for you. Maybe I'm not for you, kind of
Yeah.
thing. He shuts that down, but it is pretty half-hearted, like I think
Yeah.
like the character is supposed to be, as you mentioned, going through some things mentally and in terms of his own past with his family and his friends. And
It
I
feels like
think,
it comes out of a place of like desperation than desire, right?
right.
Or
And it
like lack
does,
of wanting things to change, even though
right.
they're undergoing a big change.
Right. And I think that that's very purposeful, which I admired that this movie does a really good job of putting you in Tim's kind of complacency
Yeah.
at the start of the movie, and you kind of feel like, yeah, what are his other options? Stay in the city and keep trying to be in a band, or, go and have like a nice life with this woman that he supposedly loves, and
Hmm.
she seemingly is supporting him, and it's an easier life for him.
Yeah, it's much more his movie than hers in that aspect because I do think the movie doesn't do personally, I don't think it does a great job of like why does she want to be with him? You know, there's multiple
No.
references to her like being like I'm the stable one. You get to have all the fun. And like if his thing is like he brings the fun to her life or he remembers what music she likes. She hasn't experienced that in the last couple of years or months. And
Yeah,
it
her
doesn't really
friends
pay
bring that
off in the
up.
movie in like a big way either.
No, her friends bring that up. Her friends are like,
Yeah.
okay, so he remembered your favorite album 10 years ago. What has he done for you lately? And I have to agree. But I do think that, yeah, we're not put in Millie's headspace quite as much as we are in Tim's for this movie. So we don't really get her POV
Hmm.
of what he brings to her life other than a sense of comfort.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that is purposeful also in the movie that we are supposed to feel that she's also unsure.
Hmm.
Maybe we're supposed to be unsure of what he brings to her life because she is. Maybe she just feels like she said, she feels comfortable. She feels
Yeah.
used to him. She feels like he's safe. He's a safe choice,
Yeah.
you know? But
And in that aspect, I'm glad that the kind of like the third man, third character, like Jamie, doesn't, he isn't someone who like is tempting her physically. Like there's a lot of references
no,
to
they
that
try and play it
character.
up. They try and play that up a little bit in the beginning, but
Yeah.
there is a very, I thought, satisfying plot twist in that he is gay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And they did it in a non-traditional way, kind of.
yeah,
I like usually when that's the plot twist, I kind of roll my eyes and I'm like, oh, of course, okay. We're trying
yeah.
to be super like faux progressive and all of that. But no, it was a genuine plot twist in this movie.
Yeah,
Um,
it happens a
but
lot more subtly too. They don't really draw like too much. It like builds
no,
to the reveal, but
it's
it's
very
even then
subtle.
it's yeah, it's not.
It's
Yeah.
very subtle. It comes, I want to say, if not at the midpoint, just past the midpoint of the movie.
Hmm.
And once you realize that he is not a threat to their relationship, it almost puts you also in a sense of comfort with him. Like
Yeah.
you feel safe that he is not going to make a move on Alice and Brie or try and break them up.
Hmm.
And I do think that that is effective because it lets us as the audience put our guards down. It lets them as characters put their guards down around him.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. I guess on that note too, his character is really interesting. It maybe leads us into spoiler
It
territory,
it
right?
leads directly to Spoilerville. You're correct.
Yeah, so Spoilerville. That's good. All right, we're taking the right turn into Spoilerville right
We are.
now as we
Right now,
coin
go
this
see the
new part of
movie.
the podcast.
Go see the movie. Come back and listen to us when you're done.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
let's get
yes, Jamie.
into Jamie and this cult. It's pretty obvious, pretty like early on in the movie that the thing that triggers this body horror event is some type of supernatural. And then maybe, I don't know, did you pick up on the cult elements when you saw the bells and the wood and
Oh, I
everything?
knew that something was off when I saw the bells.
Yeah, yeah,
They really linger on the bells when they are going for that initial fateful hike in the woods behind their house or close by.
yeah.
And yeah, there are several, just like a dinner bell, kind of, or
Hmm.
how would you describe them?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it because they're bells that you
Yeah.
can ring with like the
With a
string
yes,
tassel
with a
thing. Yeah.
tassel. And um I would describe it for my fellow people who have ever worked at a Trader Joe's as the bell next to the register at Trader Joe's.
Three
But it
bells?
has a creepy three bells, means you can need a manager. um but these bells have some carvings on them, and they're
Hmm.
just kind of non-distinct. Like one has like a sun carved on it or something, and it's
Hmm.
these various symbols that you see it and you think cult, kind
Yeah.
of. If you've seen any kind of movie like this before, your brain is going to cult. And that is where my brain went. But I will say that I kind of forgot about it
Hmm.
by the time that it came back, by the time that the Bell plant paid off. I remember like that scene where Alison Brie goes to Jamie's house. I was like slapping you on the
Oh
shoulder
yeah.
because she pulled the string, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna zoom out to get to the bell. It's the
Uh-huh.
bell," and it was, and that is how we get the reveal that our beloved Jamie is not a friendly gay, but a sinister gay. Um,
And he's two people.
and he's two people. That reveal took a minute to sink in. So what
Hmm.
we should back up and say what happens
Yeah. So,
exactly in this cave. So they go on a hike and they
hmm.
fall into they're on a path that's lined by these bells and they fall into a cave.
Hmm.
It's underground. It's almost like a sinkhole.
Hmm.
It looks a little Chamber of Secrecy to
Yeah.
me, with the like all of the kind of snake ephemera coming out of this
Yeah, it's like these like
well,
kind of like roots or tentacle
tentacles.
things coming out, but
Yeah.
they're not moving. They're just like it looks like they're
No,
like laid there.
yeah, but it's water. It's
Yeah.
essentially it's like a well
Hmm.
underground, and it looks a little funky down there. You're like, okay, this is not natural, not supposed
Hmm.
to be here. And they get stuck down there because there's a big storm. And they're
Hmm.
like, well, let's just wait it out in this totally casual cave. I would have been like, let's get the fuck out of
Yeah,
here.
because if
But
there's a storm that hard, that cave may fill up with water.
I would have been out of there so fast. You have no idea. Like
Yeah.
I would have found it in my body to like Mr. Fantastic stretch my way out.
Yeah,
But
100%.
but they choose to wait out the night down there, and they're thirsty, you know? They didn't pack for this. So lo and behold, Tim decides it's totally fine to drink this water down there at the weird basilisk basin. And he's like, it's fine, it's all good. And then the next morning, they wake up stuck together. Like quite literally, their skin is fused together by some kind of goo. And they just think it's nothing, I guess. I simply would not have thought that also. I would have been like, okay, something's
Yeah,
weird.
there's a
Let's get
really
out of
funny
here.
line where he says it's mildew, and then later on she said, "But what about the mildew?" He's like, "When do I know anything about mildew?"
Yeah, that's
Which
true. I
was
laughed.
pretty good. Yeah. But
But
yeah,
they
and there was also, the movie opens like with two dogs drinking that water too. And some really
oof,
interesting, because I was really scared in the beginning too. Like I didn't know what was going on shot wise. And there's like a shot from under the water looking up at the dogs. And
right.
so when they stay the night in the cave, they drink this water as well as these dogs, which we see get fused in the beginning. Something that is interesting is when they do drink the water, they stay in the cave that night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Franco's character has this dream that the cave is this breathing organism. And that's
Oh
where we get
yeah.
that shot of Alison Brie on the ground. So that's kind of what threw me off too. I was like, oh, this is a creature that is drawing people to it to become
Mm-hmm.
one mass thing. We are one society or whatever.
Like a
it,
hive
it
mind
a
deal.
hive mind. It does not become that, but that's what kind of
No.
detracted me from thinking like cults. But I was like, oh,
Okay.
there's something that is drawing people here, right? And we
Hmm.
quickly find out that there was like some type of like cult there that
And that there was another couple that lived in their neighborhood that
yeah.
recently went missing because of this hike.
Hmm.
So things are looking sketchy, but
Yeah.
they get back and they're safe, and it's okay for a little while, and then Tim starts to have these symptoms where he kind of is like he describes it in the movie as being like his whole body is thirsty, like is
Yeah.
like dry and like a magnet, like and the
Hmm.
only thing that makes it better is to be like right next to Millie. Like
Yeah.
and
And the movie does a good job. This is like one of those horror touch points, I feel like, where it's like, oh, because he had this traumatic event in his past, which is his mom lost her mind when she finds out his dad has died, and she sits in the bed with him as his body rots, and she, can't take care of herself. So he comes upon
okay,
that scene, very scary scene that happens at the beginning of the movie.
Okay, this is the part that doesn't work for me.
Really? You don't like the
This,
the mental health
no,
wellness aspect of it? I thought this was
I
just a pretty
don't.
classic horror beat.
I felt like it was too classic horror beat. Like I felt like it
Sure.
was almost like you didn't need it, you know? Like I
It
just
feels like it's
don't
there for the
think
scare. It's
it
there for
feels
the
like it's
intro
there for the
scare.
scare.
Yeah.
And on a writing standpoint, I understand that it's also there later to be the reason why Tim goes to the doctor, to like a
Hmm.
psychiatrist, and
He
they
gets the
point
muscle relaxers
he
that
gets
help them stave off the
yeah.
effects of the water later on.
Yes, he gets prescribed muscle relaxants, but there's also the, kind of cliche scene where he has to be like, "Oh, this is not a mental health crisis. This is really happening." And I just feel
Yeah.
like we're over that in the year 2025. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
I
just a little
agree.
over it.
I
I,
just think again as someone who's not a big horror fan, like sometimes like because the movie goes so many different places, like I almost think you need that, or it feels like it was just left over from an early draft of the script and they're like,
Yeah, it
structurally we
just
need
doesn't
it.
totally fit. And I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it doesn't totally fit. And it does feel like it's just there for a weird jump scare of his mom's like decaying face in
Yeah.
his dreams. And other than that, it really doesn't come back to haunt him very much. So
Yeah, that's true. It just
that's
happens at the beginning. Yeah.
it just doesn't feel like so vital to the story to me that it needed to be there. So
Right.
that part did not totally work for me.
So yeah, we're getting a lot of mixed scare things that go into this as they're like the effects of this water go stronger and stronger. We find out this cult was basically using this area as a way to kind of fuse their bodies together based on what is it, a Greek philosophical way of
It's
thinking.
Plato, I
Plato,
believe,
yeah.
where Jamie sits in what would I want to give it to this scene. I think that this scene is very, very well crafted. The initial scene where Millie goes to Jamie's house after she's just had like a fight with Tim, right?
Hmm.
And he sits her down, and this is when we realize that he's gay, and it is implied that he might be widowed or we see like photos of him with a partner, and he talks a little bit about his wedding day, and um he sits down and kind of talks to Alison Brie and says like, do you think that he's your other half? Even if you have problems, like, do you love him? Is he your other half? And in the moment, you genuinely feel like he's really asking. Like
Hmm.
he's really trying to be comforting. He is trying to be a friend. We as the audience and Millie now know that he's not interested in her romantically, so we feel like he's just being a good friend, a
Hmm.
nice person. But then once this reveal happens, you realize no, he's doing cult shit. And I think that that is really well constructed because he sits down and tells her this myth that this church or this cult was based off of, which is a Plato teaching that you are like at some point humans were fused together and had like two of every like
Or they
two
weren't fused together.
bodies.
Humans were had four arms, right? Like they started as a person that had more, and that everyone has been split now,
Right,
right?
because they Zeus or someone feared that they would be too
Who's
powerful.
powerful?
So
Yeah.
you spend the rest of your life looking for your other half to make you
Hmm.
whole. And what this cult does, which I thought was kind of extreme, but again, a big swing that the movie takes that I'm not sure totally lands, but I appreciated that it tried, is that the teaching of this cult is that you find your person and you go down to this creepy ass cave for your wedding day, and you both like are doused in this water, and you become literally one. You are fused together. Your
Yeah.
bodies fuse, your minds fuse, and you are now one person.
And they expedite the process by like cutting their arms open so that their bodies can heal onto each other, which we
Oof.
don't see like the full graphic intent of, but man, it's like a brutal implication, you know?
It is. It's a tough watch, but that I did think that that initial scene with her and Jamie was very well done, well
Mm,
constructed. The second scene with the like hard reveal where
yeah.
he is like in the cult's outfit and kind of he cuts her arm open with his wedding ring, which is really creepy.
Yeah.
And just the reveal that of her realizing that he is not one but two people is a little convenient feeling to me in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this movie takes some big swings that I appreciate, even if they don't totally land.
And it's not like he has any reason to bring that cult back. It's not like he's trying to either. It's just kind of like
No,
he's just like happens to be there and he's like, "Oh, you guys have just discovered the greatest pleasure in life. Like go do it." And she's like, "I don't want that." He's like, "Well, it's happening. Too late."
I kind of appreciate that this movie doesn't give us a hardcore Jamie backstory or like a Bond villain speech from
Yeah,
him where
yeah.
he's like, "Oh, but I need to bring back and revitalize this cult or something like that, and you are the perfect specimens." We don't get any of that, and I kind of like that we don't. But
Yeah.
also, I see what you're saying in that it can feel a little bit flimsy, where, he doesn't have a true motivation to either bring this cult back or to um, make sure that that temple or wherever, the cave underground remains a secret, or we don't really get his
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just
motivation.
one of those things where it's like you need that third character to serve as like the sounding board, and then why not have him be someone related to the thing? But it is just kind of like, well, he's there. It's happening. Which I guess brings us to, that moment when they're trying to stop this stuff, right? Alison Brie goes to
Yes.
Jamie, and that's where we get that scene. Dave Franco goes back into the cave, even though Millie is like, don't do that. And he goes back in and he finds that other couple who
Oof,
went
that went
missing,
missing.
which such a great production design detail is to make her hair pink because it looks even
Oh my
crazier
God,
that they're
yeah, it looks
fused.
insane.
And the brutal part of that scene is that, they are a half-fused person that has not accepted that they should fuse all the way. They're resisting it. So their body is still this like three-arm, two-face type
Blob.
thing, three eyes, and it's like hulking at him. And it literally like they've tried to kill themselves. There's like a knife
Yeah.
in them, and they are whispering like, "Help us." Save
Yeah.
us, and he like won't do it, which is crazy. And it's
I
like,
mean, at that
just kill
point,
him, just kill them. They
just
clearly
kill
want
them,
it,
kill
but he
them.
takes the knife away from them, which is so nuts. It was
Tim, that's when I
so
knew Tim.
wild.
That's when I knew that Tim really was just like he's not one of us, He's not there was something off about him the whole time, and
Yeah,
there's just like something a little bit vacant about him. And when he doesn't like do the humane thing and just like put them out of their misery, I'm like, oh God,
yeah.
this guy is a glutton for punishment.
Well, then that brings us to like the actual ending itself, right? We get the ending where they know what's going on. They inevitably will be fused. Tim basically just kind of owns up to all of his shittiness or what he can, and he's like, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." And he decides
He
that the
brings back the fake proposal.
yeah,
He brings
we
back the
break the fake.
box.
Yes, that's right. And then to there's what's it called? What's that story called? Um gift to the they do a gift to the Magi
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
because they both decide like Tim decides he's going to kill himself with the knife
Hmm.
from the other couple, but Millie
Right.
has already done oh no, she's already
Well,
bleeding.
she's
She
already
hasn't done it. I thought it was a gift to Magi
no,
thing. She's
she's
been bleeding
bleeding
out just
out
because she was
because
cut by
Jamie
Jamie.
like slashed her
That's
arm.
right. That's
So
right.
she's bleeding out, and he is willing to kill himself in order to stop this merging
Yeah,
to
and
so that
save
she can
her.
have a
Yeah.
better life.
Yeah.
Um, obviously this I mean, this doesn't happen. There was a moment where I thought it might. There was a moment where I thought that, well, Alison Brie reveals that she's been bleeding and that she's dying anyway. And there was a moment where I was like, okay, this is where the movie ends, and it's maybe this is why it was Tim's movie all along because Millie dies. But no, then we get what I thought was actually a pretty clever reversal where Tim has, in order to save her, he has fused their arms back together the way that they were earlier. So that yeah, they are becoming one. He's made kind of this decision in order to save her or some part of her. And I actually thought that this was a pretty great ending, like 75% an amazing ending where they start fusing together. He puts on the vinyl of the Spice Girls album that she loves and their
Yeah.
favorite song, and they're just dancing like as if it's their first dance at their wedding or something. And he even says that he was like, "Oh, I always pictured this as our song." And then what really takes like I thought that if the movie ended right there when they like join hands and you see their hands starting to fuse together and they're just dancing, if it had gone to black, I would have been thrilled. I would have been like, hell
Yeah.
yeah. But something that you, me, and our friend James noted walking out of the theater is that it doesn't cut there. It makes you look at the like very obviously CGI fusing of their bodies. And I was not a fan of the full body shot. I just felt like it looked
Yeah.
obviously fake and
It felt a little
it
cheap in
felt,
the moment. Yeah.
yeah, it didn't feel, it's not that it didn't feel earned, it just didn't feel necessary.
Yeah.
And I thought it took away from that moment of them choosing to join together. And then the last beat, we get like an epilogue beat that I thought just kind of undercut it almost completely. That was very much there for comedic relief, and which just kind of felt like to me like, oh, Dave Franco and Alison Brie are usually comedy actors, so let's do something comedic.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't love the very ending scene. I thought if it ended on the dance, I would have been really, I would be singing a different tune about this ending. I would be Raven.
Yeah, it just leaves you wanting a little bit more, if that's how it ended. And instead they kind of like the where it does leave you, you're like, I do want to know, but also I don't.
But
I
I
don't
thought
care.
I just thought like it would have been a more powerful directorial choice and storytelling choice to never see the fused body,
Yeah.
to never
Yeah.
see like what they actually become, and just let them have that moment where they are choosing to be together
And then
for
it
real.
also like, not that this is an element of it at all, but like we don't know if their bodies would have like rejected each other in some way, right? Maybe they would have
No,
stayed that
that's
couple like that
yeah.
was
I mean,
half
that's
fused.
never really brought up. Like even the, I mean, the idea of that happening. Maybe the idea is that if the two of you are crazy enough to do this, that you do belong together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess those
Um,
dogs never fully fused that we see.
no, but I mean, maybe the idea is what you're talking about, where like that other couple was fighting it and the dogs were fighting it, so they never
Yeah.
fused.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what we're meant to believe. Otherwise, it would have been a much longer movie.
Yeah, 100%. Um, but yeah, overall, I mean, I think you liked it more than I did. But I think
I
generally
did.
pretty successful, like.
Yeah, but I think I am, again, I am prone to like this movie a little bit, not even because I'm a huge horror person. I'm really not. I find horror movies fascinating, but I also am usually a bit of a baby about them. I've gotten better literally just in the past like 3 years. But I'm prone to like this movie because it, as I mentioned earlier, it is my favorite genre, Evan. It is a romantic comedy that is not a romantic comedy
Mm.
by genre. Like it has all the elements, all the pieces are there, but it is masquerading in another genre. And when I say that, I mean movies like Gone Girl, Harold
Hmm.
and Maude, Before Sunset, Punch Drunk Love, The Apartment, Wild at Heart, Lost in Translation, In the Mood for Love, and Phantom Thread.
The movie we will be talking about in just a little bit.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
And thank you, as always, for tuning into the middle of the podcast for our favorite part where we change the backgrounds of our virtual set.
Woo! Yes, we change
I,
our backgrounds and we say how thankful we are that somebody is still listening to the sounds of our voices.
I want to leave Dave up here, but I think I have to.
I don't know if
There's
Dave
so many
fits.
great shots from Phantom Thread, though.
I want to know if we're going to pick the same one.
I mean, the obvious choice is New Year's
I
Eve, but I
that
can't
was going
pick
to
New
be my
Year's Eve.
obvious choice.
Yeah, that is the obvious choice. So you gotta
That
you
is
gotta
my
go with
obvious
that.
choice.
Yeah,
I
go
got
with
to do
that.
it. I got to do it.
I'm trying to find the frame.
I have a
This
painting. I actually have like a painting, a watercolor painting of the New Year's Eve scene in my bedroom.
oh no way. I'll have to
Mhm.
next time over, I'll have to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the shot. There's a very specific shot that sticks out to me from this movie besides the New Year's Eve one. But you know what? I'm
Mm.
just gonna do this one because it's a little bit easier to pull. Thank you
Mm.
everybody for watching. Let us know what you thought about Together. Let us know what you're excited about in August. August is a really interesting time for
Oof.
movies because it actually seems like there might be some fun ones, but there might be a few weeks with duds.
There might
Uh,
be, and Evan and I have talked about doing something interesting for the more dud-filled release weeks,
mhm.
where we go back in time in this year and explore some of the bigger releases that came out while before we did the pot, and
Yeah.
pair them with other movies, movies like Sinners, movies like Materialists, and
Pair them with their own movies.
pair them with their own movies.
Pair them with the ones we missed.
Hmm.
All right, everybody.
Oh, this is a good scene. You did choose well. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. We're
Okay.
diving in to Phantom Thread, a movie that I love.
And a movie that I have wanted to revisit for years because I saw this at the Vista with my friend Sam whenever this movie came out, 2017.
2017.
Actually, I probably saw January, it's December 25th, so I saw it January 2018. I saw this at the Vista. We had never been to the Vista before. We were walking in. We
Mm.
were kind of late, so we were walking in.
Mhm.
The Vista is a single screen movie theater in Los Angeles. It's very nice. They do a lot of film screenings now, but prior to that, they went a little bit back and forth, I believe. Anyways, I had this problem in 2016, 2017, honestly, for most of my life, where I would just fall asleep in movies. Like it had nothing to do with the content. It was just because it was a dark room and
Evan.
my brain could just turn off. I fell asleep through so many of those History of Media 1 screenings. I fell
Oh my
asleep
God.
and I tried to do a
You
triple
fall asleep during
feature.
Citizen Kane.
Of course.
Who wouldn't? But yeah.
And I fell asleep during Phantom Thread. And so for a long time, I thought I had missed most of this movie. Turns out when I watched it this week, I probably only missed 5 minutes. I remembered, I was like, oh my God,
Oh.
wait, I didn't miss any of it. I will say the Blu-ray that I rented it from Videotech again, had a very nice conversation with the person. The Blu-ray was skipping a little bit, so I will be telling them that it did skip
Mm.
a little bit.
Absolutely.
Um,
Report. Keep that
but
physical media intact.
but it was great to see it, and I'm definitely gonna go back and make sure that I wasn't like, there was really only like two scenes that it impacted, and scenes that I'd seen before, and I was like, it's fine if I miss a little bit here, but I do want to make sure I see the full movie at some point in its entirety,
You
uninterrupted.
You absolutely should. I'm a little bit relieved that you only missed 5 minutes, but I'm also offended that you would have the nerve to fall asleep during this movie, because it is perfect to me. It is eternally, forever a movie that I love. I have watched it every New Year's Day without fail since 2018.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
it is the epitome of a toxic codependent symbiotic relationship, and therefore a perfect, if less literal, comparison to Together.
So yeah, Phantom Thread, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, PTA himself, written by him as well. PTA the GOAT wrote Gabby in the outline, and
That's
I'm
me.
inclined to agree. Produced by
Yeah.
Joanne Seller, Paul PTA, Megan Ellison, and Daniel Lupi, starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Leslie Manville, and Vicky Krieps. What a great, I mean, just what a great film. I believe PTA shot most of this film. This is like one he did as a DP, or at least a camera operator, or he
Mhm.
was the DP and there was a camera operator. I'm getting it a little conflated, but this was made in a very like tight crew, and it's just astounding to see what they were able to
And it was
accomplish.
incredibly under wraps too, for
Yeah.
as most PTA movies are when they're about to be released, but this one especially. I remember there being just like people were not sure when this movie was going to come out, if it was going to come out at the end of the year. It ended up coming out as a Christmas release, making it that instant Christmas New Year's Eve classic watch.
Hmm.
But people had no idea what this movie was about,
Yeah. And it also
which I find astounding.
yeah, I mean, how this and this movie is a little hard to describe too. It also became notable for being Daniel Day-Lewis's current last movie as an
Yes.
actor. I mean, I think he'll be
He,
acting in his son's film coming out soon, but this is his last like Daniel Day-Lewis feature film because this role kind of broke him a little bit.
This was his swan song, and
Yeah.
what a way to go out. If it is truly how he goes out and he doesn't do a major starring role ever again,
Yeah.
what a way to bow out. Like this character, this setting, everything about it is like a showcase for him.
It's yeah, the places he goes, and I think we'll have to get into some of the tone of it later and what you've highlighted as like a rom-com that is not a rom-com because he is just killing it in this.
He's
Uh
really he is on a heater in this, and I don't even want to know. I know he is notoriously a method actor. I don't even want to know the lengths that he went through to the for this movie.
yeah.
But he just, I mean, it almost feels to me when I watch it and every time I rewatch it, like almost like a love letter to Daniel Day-Lewis from Paul Thomas Anderson, where
Hmm.
he's just kind of like, here, I wrote this character basically for you.
Yeah.
Go nuts, go crazy, but like in a posh, beautiful setting, like where he gets to fall in love and he gets to be this perfectionist, this really worshipped, difficult man in a much different way than his previous PTA collaboration, which was There Will Be Blood, of
Hmm.
course, which he did win an Oscar for. But this felt much different. This
Yeah.
feels a lot different than that role.
Even stylistically too, the approach to this feels so like just like you said, lush, I think was one of the adjectives you just used, but just like so immaculate and like like just like designed so well. It feels so smooth and lit. It's like there's I feel like PTA has I like he can be a little bit more like erratic in his camera motions and stuff like that. And there's only a few scenes that do that. Everything about this just seems so seamless and so masterfully done, like from the edits to the camera movement to the performance. Like it just feel it's so the music, the Johnny Greenwood score is
Oh God, the
incredible.
score.
Score really it ties it all together, honestly. It really
I
just
write
like
to the
nails it.
score, and
Yeah.
that is something sick about me, but I literally write with the score playing in the background. It's
Oh,
just something about it that's like so soothing but also
yeah.
so ominous and and regal at the same time. Like
Yes,
this movie has
Regal.
a
Yeah.
regal feeling to it.
Yeah.
And it's just I think an absolute masterpiece, and I have PTA is one of those directors for me that I have trouble picking my favorite, or my favorite could be a different every day. Uh,
Hmm.
any day it could be Boogie Nights, any day it could be Punch Drunk Love. Today it's Phantom Thread.
Yeah. All right. So before we get too much more into Phantom Thread, obviously we're both very eager to talk about it. We got to do our box office
Oh,
our
yes,
box
of
office battle.
course.
Phantom Thread grossed 47.8 million total against a $35 million budget. I imagine together we'll be making close to 30 million in opening weekend. Is that crazy to say? Maybe
You
I've
think
got
so?
superhero movies on the mind. I
I
think
think,
together we'll end at like maybe let's just say 15, 18 for his opening weekend.
well, the budget that was reported for Together is 17 million. Uh,
Okay.
and as of, well, it's hard to track. I mean, we're recording this during its opening week, but we saw an early screening, and it came out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit hard to count all of those days. So I'm not sure if it's going to have a huge like opening weekend unless you count the whole week.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't see it making quite as much just purely because I think that Paul Thomas Anderson is one of those name brand directors that if, he has a following, he has a base, and like there just are people that are going to go see whatever he puts out there. Whatever Daniel Day-Lewis is in, people are
Yeah.
going. So I
I
think that
agree. I just think that I
yeah,
don't
it's
know. I
almost, I mean, it's not fair to compare Dave Franco and Alison Brie to Daniel Day-Lewis. It's not fair to them. They have their own bases and fans respectively, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it's as fervent of like a film goer base.
Well, when I was looking up the stats on Together, Barstool Sports said that Allison Brie and Dave Franco are doing a bang up job promoting Together.
Oh, I agree with
I
that.
think Together gets the normies out there, you know? I don't think the
Really?
normies, I think the fact that Phantom Thread was released on Christmas Day is really smart because it gets the kind of more elevated Christmas Day movie crowd. But I think Together might. I mean, word of mouth. It's all going to depend on word of mouth for Together to beat Phantom Thread
Mm,
here. But I think Together gets the normies out because they're like, you know what?
okay.
I love horror movies, and I like these guys together. They're like a new Hollywood couple. Let's hang out with them.
I love horror movies and I love Community, and I really want Alison Brie to tell me when the Community movie's coming out. That is an audience.
Gabby, why are you talking about all my friends?
Eh. Alison Brie is very good in Community. I'm not going to take that away from her.
Yeah, she's
Even
incredible.
even if the character was written questionably, I will not take it away from her. Um, I don't
Um,
know. I think you're right. I think that the because it's a horror movie, because I mean, they are doing an incredible press tour for this, especially around LA. They've been hitting the Vista, they hit the American Cinematheque.
mhm.
They've been all over the place. They were at a baseball game in a very intricately made, look seemingly hoodie for two people to be in at the same time,
That's
which I thought
funny.
was
I missed
funny.
that one. Yeah.
Um, so I think you're right. I think it could, but it is going to depend on word of mouth.
Yeah. Um, well, you know who does have good word of mouth is Reynolds Woodcock. Reynolds Woodcock is
Ah,
the character that Daniel Day-Lewis plays in this movie called Phantom Thread. If you've never seen it, he is a dressmaker in London in the 1950s, I believe. Very renowned. Everybody, or nearly everybody, wants to get their dress made by him, but he's very particular,
mm,
very fussy. I think that he's even described as fussy by one of the characters, by
yeah,
Alma
by
herself, I
Alma.
believe. Yeah. So we kind of catch him in a moment where he asks his sister, who is kind of his business manager as well, to not dispose, but to tell his current
Mhm.
girlfriend or partner to be like, you're done, you're out.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for your service.
on a little visit to the countryside, he meets Alma, who is a waitress here. He becomes immediately infatuated with her and her with him. And we see the way their relationship evolves, where Alma is clearly a very not independent, but very what's the word?
I would say I think she's
Strong-willed.
yeah, she's
Um,
independently minded.
Yes, thank you. There we go. And that doesn't quite jive with his world. There's a quote where
No.
he says that her arrival has cast a long shadow on this house, which is
Mm.
that whole monologue incredible. But yeah, we kind of see the places where their relationship goes. If you've never seen this movie before, I don't know if the spoilers will affect your view of the movie, but like just to be safe, go watch the movie because
Go
it's
watch the
great.
movie. It's a
Yeah.
masterpiece.
But I mean, let's get into it. Like
Let's do it.
this was a pretty interesting one to compare two together because, like you said earlier, the perfect epitome of a toxic codependent symbiotic relationship.
That's it.
These two
And
are more symbiotic than Alison Brie and Dave Franco in the movie.
I honestly I think that this couple, that Reynolds and Alma, are more effective to an audience because you see the whirlwind of their initial romance.
Yeah.
You get to see her be so caught up in his world. And I was rewatching this with my girlfriend, and I was kind of like, she was kind of repulsed by the character, but I was like, but tell the truth, wouldn't this work on you? Like Daniel Day-Lewis looking the hottest he's ever looked, I would argue, takes you to his own private country estate where he can make you a custom made dress. I feel like that would work on me. It would. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it would work.
I think it's
So
just that because he's like a little creepy because he's so,
he is
but it is
creepy.
one of those things where you're like, oh my God, I am watching someone who is like, I'm sure there's many dudes who try to pull this move like successfully or unsuccessfully, but you are watching someone who is now the physical attraction of this is like out of his mind. And he was like,
Yeah.
I'm just in it. Now I'm like doing the craft. Like
Well,
when,
yeah, he gets like almost as, if not more, like romantically attracted to the idea of making her a dress.
yeah.
You know, he's like infatuated by her body, but not because he wants to be physical with her, but because he wants her figure
Mhm.
to show off his designs. And I think that that's fascinating, but also it tells you right up front that any relationship that these two have, he is going to be using her, and, in differing degrees.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just like this insane like one-two punch of lines after as he's measuring her because Cyril, his sister, walks in to take notes on her
Mm.
measurements, and he just goes, he says something akin to like your body is perfect. Oh,
Oh,
and
he
then he
says you
says
have no
you have
breasts.
no breasts, and she goes, I
I
know,
know.
and he goes, I can give you breasts, but only
Yeah,
if
it's
I
my
want
job
to.
to
But
give
it's
you some if I want
if I
to.
want to. And then he walks out, and Cyril kind of initially it seems like she comforts her because like, oh, your body is perfect, and she's like, oh wow, thanks, and she goes, yeah, he likes a little around the belly, which is just
I
insane.
know. It's so, but it's such a perfect breakdown of the relationship that will come to be between the three of them, too, because
Hmm.
Cyril is such a big part of this movie and is such an important like cog in the machine of this business, but also in Reynolds, in him as a
Hmm.
character. He cannot really function or operate without her, without his sister.
Yeah, there's that great scene where she tries to surprise him, and Cyril's like, "No, this is not a good idea to send us all out and surprise him with dinner." And the first thing he asks or it's the second thing he asks when he comes back and realizes that no one's gone is, "Where's Cyril?"
Yep.
And Alma's like, "Well, it's just us." And he goes, "But when is she coming back?"
When will Cyril be back?
Yeah.
I I love it. I love him. And now it's at the point where like I watch this movie and there's just so much unintentional comedy that I laugh at every single time. Um, and that scene is one of them where he is sitting down to this dinner that Alma has prepared, and she's trying to figure out like what is it that you do want from me, and I'm like, what can I give to you? Do what are we almost? It's almost like they're defining the relationship conversation,
Yeah.
and she has said a couple of times by this point that she loves him and he doesn't really reciprocate or he doesn't say it with words. Um, and to me, that is just putting it all out on the table, literally with dinner. And she chooses to stay. He puts it all out there. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't, he tells her, I don't need you. Whether you want to be in my life is kind of up to you. And she chooses to stay. Even Cyril asks the next day, like, do you want me to dismiss Alma the way that she dismissed his previous girlfriend? And he says no. Like he knows, part of him already knows that their connection is there's something about it that will make her stay with him. I
Hmm.
think anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes back to their first interaction, right? Where he is like, clearly there's a physical connection when they see each other, and when she takes his order, he orders this insane
Oh,
breakfast, right? And
a
she,
rabbit,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
eggs, bacon,
She writes it
scones.
all down, and he asks her, "Will you remember it?" And then he takes the piece of paper from her, which is this insane power play. But then when it all comes back and he's like, "Let's have dinner," she already has a note pre-written for him that just says, "To my hungry boy," or whatever. And like that's
Or the
another
hungry
jab
boy.
to the yeah, a jab from her that is clearly like this is someone who is not afraid to speak their mind. It's just about how
No.
much he can accept that when it comes to the actual
Right.
parameters he sets in his world. And this whole movie is about the journey of them setting those marks in their relationship. And it just goes like to such insane places to the end right
Well,
there.
because our girl Alma discovers how to play her hand, how to get the upper hand on Reynolds, and it is so brilliant in my mind that she observes him. She spends the first half of this movie observing everything that goes on in his day-to-day life, his whole routine, his business, his relationships with his clients, with his sister. And then he gets sick like one day and she is needed essentially. Like he actually does need her
Yeah.
in that time to take care of him.
Oh, it's after the
And
fashion show. He just kind of like
yes, he
crashes.
he he
Yeah.
crashes and she realizes, "Oh, I like when he needs me." So
Hmm.
I guess the light bulb goes off in her head in a place that I guess my brain could never go, but I love that it goes off for her, where she's like, I'll just make him sick again. I'll make him sick anytime that I want to feel needed and that I want him to know that I am in control of his literal wellness.
Hmm.
And I fucking love that for them. I love that for these crazy kids.
Oh God. Yeah, you realize that she's like so like kind of like sneakily sinister the whole time, you know?
She
Like
is.
it's
She's
so
conniving.
wild. Yeah.
She's, but I think that the movie does such a fantastic job of painting her kind of, as you said, like she kind of looks like and it kind of comes off as a wallflower, but she has these subtle moments where she's matching him. She is
Hmm.
matching his energy and, pushing his buttons in a way that we're led to believe that his other partners have not done.
Yeah.
So he gets a kick out of that. He gets a thrill out of it for sure.
Yeah, and so does Cyril. There's a few lines that she has where she was like, that she's like, I'm quite fond of Alma, and then he's like, there's something between the two of you, blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah. But like, I think Cyril also respects the fact that Alma can not only hold her own against Reynolds, but also can, like, gets the business too, because we see
she does.
in
She gets it and she respects it,
yeah,
which is the most important thing to both of them.
she helps stay up. Oh yeah, there's the you like whatever she does in her life is her business, but you will not disrespect the House of Woodcock by doing it in this dress. Where
Iconic.
they take the dress from, and then that's when they kiss in the street. That's a wild scene because like
Love it.
just to see the two of them stew at the wedding there, um,
Yeah.
is so
To to
wild.
to me, that is the end of the whirlwind romance chapter for them is
Yeah.
what is kind of that kiss in the street, and then we kind of get into this plot of him making a wedding dress for a member of high society, possibly royalty,
Hmm.
and Alma's jealous. Alma's a little bit jealous, and
Yeah.
that's where she decides kind of to make him sick for the first time. She decides that okay, he's getting a little too friendly maybe with this woman, or which I
Well,
don't think
it's
he
weird
ever
because
really did.
he's known her since she was a kid, you know, and
Yeah.
I didn't ever view that as like a physical jealousy. I think it's more just
No.
just the attention of, right?
Right.
That like this is obviously such a high priority job for him that it leaves no time for Alma, you know.
Right. That, yeah, I don't think it's physical at all. I think it's just, yeah, she is starting to feel second hand to his first priority, which
Yeah.
is always going to be the dresses and his trade. And a little bit his mother. He's a mama's boy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, his the
Big
memory of
mama's
his
boy energy.
yeah, the memory of his mom haunting him, right? Because can you clarify something for me? Because I feel like I maybe missed this while I was like setting up my Blu-ray player or whatever. But like his mom, he made a wedding dress for his mom, but it was considered
Yes.
bad luck, right? That happened, and she dies not
No, no,
because of
no.
it, but he kind of feels like responsible.
No, I think it's that she would not make her own wedding dress because she thought it was bad luck.
Oh, I see.
So he had to step in and make it. And so, yeah, she considered it a curse to make that it would be a curse upon her marriage,
Yeah,
kind of.
because it's a second marriage, right? At that
Right.
point, yeah, yeah.
So he
Okay.
makes her the dress. And I
Hmm.
think that's where he kind of falls in love with dressmaking. And he mentions that his mother taught him this craft. So it's clearly very close to his heart. Um,
Yeah, that scene where he's like, you know, sick on the poison mushrooms for the first time, and he sees his a vision or a ghost standing in the corner,
in
and
the dress.
in the dress, and Alma is walking back and forth in the room, is like, is truly is just some really wild stuff. I don't know if you ever seen the movie Personal Shopper, but I think I'd seen it
Mhm.
pretty close in proximity, and I was like, there's just some like just that like slight tinge of supernatural is so interesting in this moment because like even if he's dying, even if he's not, just this unsettledness of this scene, and then now to link his mother and Alma, both like caregivers in his life, right? Is like
Mhm.
very interesting.
Exactly. Another link to Together. Men with
Hmm.
mommy issues. Dead mommy
Oh
issues.
no! Oh no!
Didn't mean to
Um,
get morbid on you, but it is a
it's
link.
true. It is true.
I'm obliged to point it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, where I think the movie is at its most interesting or its best in that sort of final scene where not only have we've come full circle here and we realize that not only is Alma poisoning him, but Reynolds realizes that Alma is poisoning him.
That whole sequence, because you think they might
Lights
be on the
out.
outs at that moment too, because they're back in the countryside, and
They've gotten married, but they're like still bickering and
when
they're,
they're in the hotel in the on their honeymoon, and he's like reacts to
oh
her
my
eating
God.
breakfast is so funny.
Just honestly, I was watching this and the right when he like heals from his sickness and he immediately goes and asks Alma to marry him. I was my girlfriend turned to me and was like, "Don't get any ideas." And you know what? I can't say I didn't think it, but no, I wouldn't do that. But my point is she gets what she wants. Like
Yeah,
she didn't realize in that moment that that's what she wanted. Like she just wanted to tend to him, to care for him. And then she realizes like, oh, I can get so much more out of this
yeah,
than I ever bargained for because she gets him to commit. She
yeah.
gets him to lock it down and none of those other girls did. They were not poisoning him.
And then, we jump forward and she's cooking the stuff for him, the mushrooms, and he realizes it, and he sits down
And he
and
takes a bite.
takes a bite, and he's chewing, and she kind of just like puts all the cards out on the table.
When she says like you won't die, but you might wish that you were dying. Mm, I can't.
As
It's a lights out scene. I love it. Like the way that the whole thing kind of comes together in that moment
Yeah.
is so satisfying and so twisted that it just makes the viewer kind of makes you feel sick as the viewer.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that that is such a master stroke of writing and filmmaking and performance
I mean, I remember
coming
when my
together.
friend Sam and I first watched it, we were just like jaw dropped, like looking at each other in the theater, like this is happening. And when he is holding the bowl and he
Oh
goes,
my
I
God.
think you might need to call that boy doctor friend of yours.
And she's like, "Don't you trust me?"
He's like, yeah, but just in case.
And she's like, "Mm." And then what does my girl do? But she calls that doctor and she sits him down and tells him the whole
Whole
story.
story.
She admits to it. She admits to everything. And the doctor, I guess, is just going to be like a weird pawn in their game now
Well,
for the rest of their lives.
and also, the doctor is the godson of a client that has now spurned
Yeah.
Reynolds.
Yep.
And Reynolds
That is
has told his
correct.
doctor to fuck off multiple
Multiple times. I
times.
love that. I love that scene where he's like, I think I'd like you to fuck off.
But I will say, I don't know, is there like I don't know if this throws a wrench into things, but is there kind of like some like cuck energy going on here?
100%.
Okay, okay.
I think that he realizes that he likes being out and like not so in control all the time. Like, I
Yeah.
think that that's his mind mentality. If I had to guess, I don't think it's that, oh, he wants somebody to dote on him and to love him quite as much. I think, maybe that is part of it because he, harps on the mother part of it.
Yeah.
I think it's more we see this regimented world that he's living in, and he likes the idea of, being taken out of it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, there's
being,
definitely
yeah,
some like sadism going on there, right? I guess
right.
I was more specifically asking, like, do you think the involvement of the doctor, does that become like a
Oh,
third partner in their relationship? Because
oh,
there's some hints that like the
I
godmother
see.
at the dinner, the Christmas dinner, whatever it is, the godmother's like, oh, looks like he's into your wife, and it looks like she's into him. I don't think that's as big of a
I
play
don't,
here,
yeah, I
but
don't
it is
think that that's
interesting.
it. I
Yeah.
think that he more, no, I think that Reynolds is more so likes toying with the doctor
Yeah.
than he would like having the doctor in on the game
Yeah.
necessarily. I think he likes having the doctor in on the game because it's funny to him, not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
because he wants him to fuck his wife. But it could have been in a different movie.
hmm And then I kind of want to get your thoughts on the ending too, because as she's talking, she almost saying like, I see visions of our life, and we don't quite know if what we're seeing is what she's describing is things that will happen or things she's imagining will happen, which is having a child, her kind of taking over the business. And what did you make of all that?
I think that Alma is making a vision board in her mind of what she is going to get for herself the next time that she poisons him. She
Mm,
got a proposal once. She's getting him in on the game for another time. Maybe next time she gets a baby. I don't know. She gets him to settle in. I think she even uses that word in that scene, kind of when she says, when I need you to settle down or when I need you to like take a step back, I can always do this to you is the
hmm
message we're meant to convey. So I don't know if those things are literal, but I think that they are what she is envisioning using this new power and this new dynamic in her relationship to achieve.
hmm Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that. Yeah, I was just surprised that I was like when he brings us back where he was like, but we're here now, and he's still like dying.
I
And then
know he's like,
and then it ends with him going, and I'm very hungry, or whatever the line is.
yeah, Galactus is not the only hungry boy on this podcast anymore, Evan.
Um Well, I guess with that ending tag too, that kind of brings us full circle to like what we teased too about how this movie is. Both movies are kind of like rom-coms without being rom-coms, right? Like the together being a horror movie, but clearly centered around the romance element of this. This one being, I think, like a romance. A dark romance with comedic elements, right? When we
Right.
were
But
looking,
also masquerading in the dressings of a period piece.
oh,
Of
100%. Yeah.
right. Yeah, a set piece drama.
Yeah.
And I think that also takes away from, the same way that horror works as a device in Together. I think that the setting and the time period of Phantom Thread kind of takes you away from this romance element. It takes you
hmm
away from the focus being on this toxic romance
Yeah, yeah,
because
you're
the
you're caught
dress is
up in the
so pretty.
machinations of the world, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
how could you not be? I mean, you're seeing, as you noted, like the photography of this movie and like just being completely thrown into this world and watching the dresses be made. It's hypnotizing. It's
Yeah.
really alluring in a way that it has to feel to us for us to really resonate with Alma and how she's feeling.
100%. I also think like we touched on the brilliance of all the performances early on, but like part of like what makes this movie so good because I do think there are moments that are supposed to be intentionally funny or darkly funny, but it's played so straight, right? This is like
Mhm.
for the actors, this is like a straight drama that just
Yes.
happens to be comedic. And
Mhm.
like the commitment to playing it at that level is so important in making it work, you know?
I agree. And I do think that in Together, I do think that, again, not to compare them to Daniel Day-Lewis and Leslie Manville, but um, I do think that they are performing on a different level than we've seen them perform on before as well. I think
Yeah.
they're doing something different. I think the script is asking something different of them. And I think that it is a brilliant twist to have them be a real life married couple. Like this is something that used to happen much more in old Hollywood,
Mm.
where real couples, whether they were already married or then became a scandalous affair kind of situation, um, it works. It works
hmm
for a reason, and I'm really glad to see it again on screen. I think that I'm not sure if it's just because they're together, literally
hmm
on screen, but I think that they bring a very interesting energy to this movie that different performers may not have had the same, like you're saying, the same level of commitment to playing things through.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes where they have to be like very intimate with each other that like we know they're married so that like there isn't any concerns about like, oh, intimacy coordinator, things like that on set, but like you know that they're just like
Yeah.
committing to being
I
very
wonder if
comfortable
you
with
do.
each
I
other.
wonder if you need an intimacy coordinator if you're married to your co-star. That's
I
a
do
good
think it's
question.
probably something union wise that has to be offered, but I think
Yeah.
that they can decline and everyone will be like, yeah, we'll give them that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go through some of the other movies you listed are about rom-coms that aren't rom-coms. I liked
Ye-
Gone Girl. Before Sunset, I feel like it's just like a straight romance,
It
with
is,
some
but
jokes.
it does. It has that kind of twist though at the end where you're not sure where it's gonna go. You kind of know, but
True,
you
yeah.
don't. Um, And it has the same thing with the location kind of being very distracting with Paris and the walk through the city.
Yeah, The Apartment is such a great pull too of like how dark that movie is compared to the
So
comedy that's
dark.
in it. Like the romance almost feels like so ancillary to the whole plot. Like,
The
yeah.
Apartment is something that I would pair Phantom Thread with any day too.
Oh, 100%. I love The Apartment. That's a such a great movie. I watched that when I was away from family during the holidays, and I was like, "Ooh, wrong movie to watch." And
Nope.
also right movie to watch because that
Right
movie
movie to
is great.
watch.
Uh,
Always.
yeah. Speaking of the right movie to watch, Phantom Thread ended up being a good pick, but what were some
I
other
think so.
alternative pairings that we're thinking about when talking about together?
Okay, so my first thought when we came out of together was Midsommar, but
Hmm.
I thought it would be cruel to make you sit through another Ari Aster movie, and also we just did an Ari Aster movie. So I mean I love that movie for some of its relationship dynamics.
Mm,
I would categorize Midsommar as a rom-com. It's not a rom-com, and
mm.
it does play on a lot of issues of codependency and toxicity in relationships with a really interesting cult element. So I thought that that would have been a really strong pick. If you're feeling a more culty vibe after you watch together, I would suggest Midsommar. But for Evan's sake, I opted against it. Um,
Thank you.
I also Possession came to mind, which is a French psychological body horror classic from 1981. Truly just one of the most batshit movies I've ever seen in my life, and I just didn't know if I wanted to put myself through that. Again, if I'm being 100.
Yeah, yeah. I think I had mentioned a few movies that were a little bit more modern, that come to mind, and then we were like, we can't break the rules this early. So I did want to
Hmm.
shout out the suggestion from Riley, who helps us on the tech side, on the episodes, who suggested Venom, which I think could have been really fun.
Venom would have been fun.
Because newsflash, I haven't seen the whole Venom movie or any of the Venom movies.
Evan, you call yourself a cinephile. Those movies are beloved by the normie filmy goers and the cinephiles alike, and you should know that.
Oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, one day I'll watch them. But let us know what you think we should pair, what other movies would pair well with together, if it's more the body horror aspect or some of the cult aspects, like Gabby said, or if there was another romance or rom-com about toxic relationships that we missed. That's it for us today. If you're listening to us on audio, leave a review or comment. Don't forget to check out the video versions of these on YouTube at Back to the Feature Pod. You can follow the podcast on Letterboxd at Back to the Pod and on Instagram at Back to the Feature Pod. We end every episode with a message from the couch creature. Usually, when we record these in person, we have a couch behind us, but today the couch creature is
Ooh.
Mr. Dave
Dave
Franco.
Franco. Who could say
Um,
no to that face?
yeah, yeah. Dave, what do you have to say about these two movies? Oh yeah, I'm Dave Franco and I'm married to Alison Brie, man. That's
He
pretty
really
pretty
he really
insightful
lucked
stuff.
out. Mhm. He really lucked out. I'm gonna say that on the pod. That's my real thought. He's fine. He seems funny.
Yeah. And speaking of funny, next movie we're gonna do on the podcast. This is a very busy week for Gabby and I. Great week for me to be sick because we are gonna be covering The
Woo!
Naked Gun, and what better movie to pair it with than Airplane?
Airplane. Ah! I'm so excited for this pairing
I know, can't
and
wait.
more excited to see a comedy in theaters on opening weekend once again. We are back.
We are back. Thank you so much,
Until
everybody.
next time, we gotta go.
We gotta go. See ya.